everyone and welcome. This is part one of my colour along which I'm doing in time lapse, and the colour along is for a group called What I Like to Colour. I will post the link in the description box to that group. I've been asked to do this Frankenstein's Bride hashtag colour along as a collaboration. There's quite a few other YouTubers doing this, what I will put in the description box below. Now, to start off with, all as I've done is used the lemon shade markers just to base the skin in the skin white colour, and I'm now using a light grey just to do a quick base on the brick. Now I am going to be doing the rest in pencil, and I am going to be going over the skin tone in Prismacolor Premier pencils, and I'm also going to be going over the areas of the bricks in Prismacolors. If you haven't got any markers, you can just go and put a very light layer and base with a peach colour, maybe the light peach in Prismacolor Premier pencils or a similar tone in whatever pencils that you have, and just use a light grey to put a base over the bricks, but just remembering to use a really light layer because I am going to be going over the full area. And it doesn't matter if any area on the bricks is slightly streaked with the pen that you are using, because we are going to be going over the whole thing with pencils. It's just to give me a quick base. You will find this page if you want to come along and join me in the group What Would You Like to Colour, and it will be in the events section on the Facebook group. I will post it in the description box below and you can come and join, and please use the hashtag Frankenstein's Bride. Now I'm just doing the same on this side of the wall. I might later on maybe add some blood to the wall, I do not know yet, I'm just going to see how it goes. And as for the veil, what the actual bride is wearing on a wedding dress, I am just ignoring that for the moment and colouring through it because I am going to make it translucent. I'm probably going to use like a wash off paint, really washed down, very last, so it'll be the very last thing that I do, and go over a veil. And then when it comes to the spider web on the wall, I am going to be postering that out and making it look white. Also, I forgot to mention that over on the group What Would You Like to Colour, this page is free, and you will find some other free pages there for all the events that's happening throughout the month in Frankenstein's Bride. Now I'm coming on to the pumpkin, and I'm using Arteza pencils, and the colour that I'm putting down first is rust orange in a light layer, and I'm just going over all the areas where I want to be darkest. And soon as I started putting the pencils down, the first thing that I did notice about this paper is it wasn't gripping to the tooth, so I am going to have to do a lot more blending with an harder pressure throughout this video on the pumpkin, just so I can blend it a little bit more better. If you're at home and using better paper, you should have no problems at all. And I do apologise if there's any glare on the picture because I am using a overhead desk lamp and you might see some of the wax glare, but I will remove the desk lamp at the end a bit later on so you can see what the picture in the pumpkin looks like without that glare. Now, because it's a wax pencil, what I normally do after I finish doing all my colouring, I then normally just go over it with a piece of tissue and it picks up all that wax. Now I'm going in with my second colour, and I'm just adding in the vermilion in the Arteza pencils, and I'm just going over where I've put that first colour, the rust orange. And if you notice, we have got the Frankenstein's face in the pumpkin as well, so I'm just trying to add some dark areas around his face, and then I'm going to put some lighter areas where the pumpkin's supposed to be carved out. And at this moment in time, I'm still not fully blending, I'm just putting my colours onto the paper. Now I'm going in with the colour orange, and I'm going over everything that I've put down, and I'm just blending all that orange into the vermilion and the rust orange that I've put down, and I'm going to use this lighter colour to try blend it, really blend it a bit, just to get rid of any of the white tooth of the paper showing. And as you can see, we can see the glare of the wax because I have got my light overhead, but as soon as I remove it, you will see it in a different light, so you'll see what the pumpkin actually looks like without the wax glare and the light over it. Also, when I come to the white areas, I really lay off my pressure with my pencil so I can get my next colour down. Now I'm coming in with the turmeric yellow, I believe it's called. And as you can see, I'm putting this lightish yellow in all the highlighted areas what's left, and I am leaving a little bit of areas where the pumpkin's carved out, and I'm going to use a sunflower yellow just to make it a little bit more lighter in them carved out areas, and I'll show you what I mean. Now I'm coming into the carved out areas. I've gone back to my orange for the outer bits, and then I'm coming back in with the turmeric yellow and then the sunflower yellow. And then I'm using a sienna brown just for the outer edges, and this is going to create a darker shadow, give it a bit more of a darker tone so it looks lighter in the middle, so we're getting that highlight shining through. As you can see, at this point I have moved my light away and we're getting that glare off of the picture. So this is what your pumpkin should be looking like at this moment without all the wax glare from the light. Now I'm just doing the same in all the highlighted carved out areas and going back between them colours, and then adding a bit of that sienna brown last just to give it a bit more dark definition. So now I'm just using the sienna brown just to do the darker areas that I want doing. And then I'm coming in with a little bit of black. Now the black that I'm using, I am hardly putting any pressure whatsoever on the paper. It's just to give it a little bit of black in the pumpkin around the edges, just to make it a bit more of a contrast colour. And it makes all the orange stand out. And I'm just blending it back over with the rust orange. So here I've switched to Prismacolor Premier pencils, and I'm starting off with a ginger root colour, and I'm going to make a dress like a cream, kind of dirty, so that a dress appears to have been white at one point, and then over time it's gone to like that creamy yellowy colour, like say that you've left something white in the sun and it over time it you know goes an off colour, and that's the appearance that I'm wanting to give a dress. And I've started with the ginger root, and I'm just putting it in the darkest areas and at the outer edges of her arms as well. And then I've come in with a cream colour and eggshell, so I'm using cream and eggshell and just doing the same thing. Now I'm coming in with sienna brown, and I'm just going over all the creases with a light pressure of the sienna brown, just where the creases of the line art is that makes her hands and arms look like bandages. And I'm only using a really light pressure, and then I'm going to come in with the white and just blend where I've gone over that sienna brown out with that white. And that's all I'm going to be doing for a dress, because I want a dress to look subtle and it's not going to be really in your face. Now I'm coming in with the 70% warm grey, and I'm just doing the shading on her face, and I'm not blending at this point. I'm just putting a layer of the 70% warm grey around the darkest shaded areas where I want it to be, so around the edges of her outside of her face, underneath her eyes and her nose and her neck. And I did just have to fill in a little bit of marker on her ears, what I'd missed from earlier on. Now I'm coming in with the 50% grey, and I'm going over all the 70% grey that I've just put down and blending it out towards the highlighted area of her face where you can see the marker base what we've already put down. Then what I'm doing now is I've grabbed the blue light colour, and I'm just going over all the darker areas with this blue lake just to give her a little bit of a blue tint. And then I'm coming in with the 10% warm grey, and with this I am blending everything out with an harder pressure and going over all the colours that I've put down and blending it out towards the highlight of her face. And then what I'm going to do is come in with the 10% cool grey and blend everything out, all to the highlighted area. So after I've used the 10% cool grey just to smooth everything out into that highlighted area, I will probably add a little bit of white just in that highlighted area, just to give it a little bit of more of an highlighted look. But we should still have some of the highlight and that original base of marker showing through, so she doesn't necessarily look all grey. Now I'm going to use the crimson red, and I'm going to start to make it look like she's got little bits of blood on the corner of her mouth dripping down her chin and onto her neck. I'm also going to use the crimson red just to do little circles on her eyes, leaving white spaces just to make it look like she's got bloodshot eyes. And then I'm going in with a black cherry at the corner of the lips, and then I'm filling the rest in with the crimson red. And with that crimson red, all the rest of the eyeball where it's white, I'm just going to put little cracks around inside the white ball of her eye. Now I'm going to start doing the background, and I'm using Neocolor watercolours, and from the bottom I'm using black, and then I'm using Parisian blue at the bottom. And what you see me doing on screen now, around the moon, I've just put a layer of white all around the moon, and then I've put some light grey down, and then I'm going to turquoise blue, and then out to light blue, then cobalt blue, and then to my darker colours towards the left top corner of the page, and that's what you can see me doing. And then I'm just going to put some white into the top right corner all the way through them lighter colours is where I'm putting my white, and then as you can see I'm going down the page on the right side to the bottom. I'm going to my darker colours. So just remember, we're going from black, the darkest colours at the bottom of the page, up to the left hand top corner is where we want it dark, and then the top right corner is going to be our lightest areas. And I've just put that down in circular motions, and I do apologise, I have had to twist my page here just so I can get the angle so I can lay all my colour down. And also I do apologise if you can see any of my strands of hair in the view. I just had to get really close to the page so I could see what I was doing. So now you can see I've started adding water, and what I'm doing is I'm going from the lightest area first, and I'm cleaning my brush constantly as I'm getting down to them darker areas, because I don't want any of that darker paint going in to any of my lighter colours. So if you do a darker area and then go to a lighter area, just remember to clean that brush off. And now I'm coming in at the other side and I'm just doing the same thing. And when the paint does dry, if you have got any streaks or any lines, you can just clean your brush off and go in with water. Now what I'm going to do is I'm only going to do one layer of this paint on my paper because my paper's not that good. If you're at home and you are using better paper, I would suggest to go back in when it's dry with the same colours and go over and deepen up that area. Now you will notice that I'm just ignoring the veil, what she's got on, and I'm colouring over that. I am going to white Posca the lines out of the veil, which you will see me do shortly, and then at the very end, at the very last thing, I'm going to use some acrylic paint just to go over it. Now I'm just touching up the lighter area with clean water. I've wiped my brush and I'm just using water just to blend it out a bit around where the moon is. There is a tree going through the moon as well, which I'm going to pencil out later on. Now I'm just using some lemon yellow around the edge of the moon and around the outer moon, and I'm whitening that off, so I'm blending it out with white. Now I'm just adding a bit of Parisian blue to the bottom corner just to deepen that colour up. Now I'm going to let that dry, and I'm coming in and I'm going to start to Posca out all the lines of the veil. And again, I do apologise if you do see the top of my head or my hair. I did have to get really close to the page. And as you can see, I'm just Poscaing all the outer lines so we can see that veil, and then that's going to be ready for when I do finally apply some of acrylic wash to it later on. And I'm just doing the same on this side, Poscaing everything out, and I am going to be Poscaing also the spider web on the wall out. And if you haven't got a Posca pen, any white gel would do, or any pot of white ink with a fine brush. Now I'm just Poscaing out the spiderweb lines and going over that, and it is a bit fiddly because I am trying to get all the black lines out, and there is a few little bits of black areas that I'm trying to get out as well. So I had to get really close to the page so I could see what I was doing as well. Now I'm just adding some stars with the Posca pen. Make sure obviously that if you have used paint that it is dry at this point. And that's all I'm doing around the darker areas, is just adding little dots and making it look like stars. And I'm just doing that around the top half of the page. Now what I'm doing is coming in with the Crimson Lake, and I've used a sharp tip and I'm just putting random shapes into the wall. Now I'm only using one colour because I don't really need to have any fancy blending here, because I am going to be adding some more grey into the wall later on. So just little random dots and little random shapes. Don't worry about your shapes. It doesn't really matter what they look like because they are supposed to be really random. So I'm just doing this throughout both of the sides of the wall, and just making it look like blood splattered on the wall. So some areas I'm just doing random curvy shapes, and then little dots around them shapes, or little sharp lines, and I'm just going to do that on both sides. Even add some to the cracks of the wall as well, where the bricks join together, just to look like random splatters of blood. So now I'm just doing the exact same thing on this side of the wall all the way down, just really random. I will put all the links to the other YouTubers that are taking part in this event, and I will put all the information underneath as well, what you will find in the Facebook group. So if you do head over to that Facebook group, you will find loads of different pages and free pages to colour to come and join in. I might add some more blood to a dress later on. I'm going to see what the picture looks like first before I decide on that, because I do want to add some more greys to the wall. Now I'm coming in with the 70% warm grey, and I'm very lightly just shading all the darker areas, so the outer edges of the wall and in between the cracks, really lightly. And at this point I'm not blending it out yet, because I am going to be using another colour to do that. And I'm just going to be putting this colour all the way down the wall before I do blend it out with another colour. I'm only using a light pressure to put this colour down, and if you do go over any of the white Posca pen while you're doing this, don't worry too much, because you can just go back over that line with the Posca pen after you've finished blending out all the greys that I'm going to put
now
down. I'm coming in with the 20% warm grey, and I'm going to smooth out over all the 70% warm grey, that I've put down with a harder pressure, and then I'm going to fetch it into that highlight, leaving a little bit of highlight of the original grey marker that I put down at the beginning. But I am going to be running some of the 20% warm grey just through that highlighted area, so it doesn't look too light of the highlight shining through from that marker. Also, I am trying to avoid the red blood marks that we've put down. I don't want all the red running through the grey, but don't worry if you do happen to go over any by accident. It doesn't really make any difference if it's just a little bit, because we are going for the splattered blood on the wall look. I'm just going to do the same all the way down the side of this side of the page on the wall, and I do apologise again for having to keep twisting the page around, and also I do apologise once again for any shots of my hair or my head that you can see. I have actually got my tripod positioned in a different way while filming this video, and every time I have to look really close to the pages when you're seeing my hair or my head. As well, for the watercolour background that I did, if you don't own any of the Neocolour watercolours or any watercolour paints, you can just use any pencils, any brand. Just use the black in the darkest areas where I have, and use a couple of darker blues, going from darker blue to medium blue, and then to a light blue, and like a skylight around where the moon is, and some grey or white pencil. Use your white pencil to blend in all of your lightest blue into your medium blue, and it should create that glowing effect around your moon. I also wanted to make this colour along a bit simple, so all levels the colourist can join in. So definitely don't be afraid to just join in, and if you haven't got any of the mediums that I'm using, just use some similar colours of other brands of pencils or watercolours and you should be fine. Now I'm coming in with the Crimson Lake, and I'm just going to make it look like she's got eyes that are tearing up with blood. So I'm going to put them on the lash line and just above the lash line where a bottom white of her eyes are, and then I'm just going to make it look like she's crying. So she's got little bits dripping down and down towards the bottom of her face where her chin is, and then I'm just going to put a little bit of Posca on a lash line and some on her lips. Now I'm going to start on a Rea, and I'm taking a black Prismacolor Premier pencil and I'm just following where the line art is already in on the picture, and I'm going to be leaving a space in between each line of black, and then I'm going to add some black cherry just to give it my own touch for a Rea. And normally when I do air, I normally do it in flicking motions, but because this picture is a fun cartoon picture rather than a realistic picture with realistic looking air strokes, I'm probably going to get away with just colouring it in, following the direction of the line art what's already in this picture. And I'm going to be leaving both the sides of her hair white. She has got streaks at the side of her hair, and I believe the Frankenstein's Bride does have these kind of like forks at the side of her hair pattern, like a lightning pattern, and this is usually just left white. I am going to add some lemon yellow later on. Now I'm coming in with the black cherry and just filling in the whiter areas. I am then going to go back over with my black and just deepen everything up a bit, because like I said earlier on, my paper is really toothy and it's taking a lot to blend with the paper that I'm using. The paper that I am using is House of Card paper from Amazon, and I do normally use the Winsor & Newton soft surface heavyweight paper, so it's smooth surface, sorry, and I did have to order that paper in, and it wouldn't have been here in time to do this colour along, because I am going to be posting this on the 10th of October. Now I'm just filling in the gaps with the black in between the lightning strikes at the side of her hair, and then I'm just blending over any areas that I think that need smoothing out to get rid of any white that I've got left on page, and that's all I'm doing in this bit. Here I'm just gonna wipe over the area with a cloth to get rid of any wax residue that builds up, and then I'm coming in with a lemon yellow and just adding a bit of that yellow to the sides of her hair where I've left white, and then I've took my white Prismacolor Premier just to go over the area and blend it out a bit, just so I'm not leaving that area completely white, and just giving it a little bit of an highlight of colour. Now I'm just going to add a little bit of a Posca line just through that yellow, just to make it a bit more of the vibrant white, just streaking through her hair at the sides. Now I'm coming in with some Arteza white watercolour paint. Now you can use any white watercolour paint to do this, and I'm only adding the tiniest amount of paint and lots of water, because I just want to build my colour up, because I still want to see the background through that paint, and I'm wanting to make the veil still look translucent. I am going to be adding some Posca pen later on to put streaks through a veil, but at the minute I'm just adding more layers and building up, and then I'm putting a little bit more paint to the water to make it look thicker as I go along, just until I'm satisfied with the look. So some areas will be more opaque with paint, and then others will be more translucent. In some areas you will see me blotting some of the paint out with a cloth. This is just to give it like a mottled effect so I can get some of that background showing through if I have added a bit too much white paint. Now you can see that I've put a bit more paint into the mix, so it's a lot thicker, and I'm just doing it in like lines, very smooth lines, so it looks like there's lines of more opaque white coming through that veil, just to give it that effect. So the veil wants to be streaked with white lines, and it just makes it look a bit more realistic rather than it being completely see-through. And that's just what I'm doing for the rest of this veil, just getting it to look how I want. And remember, if you do add a little bit too much paint, you can just blot it over with a cloth and until you get the look that you're after. Now I'm just coming in with the Crimson Lake, and I'm just going to start to fill in all the lettering with that Crimson Lake colour, and I'm not doing any fancy blending, I'm just straight colouring at this part. Also, I'm waiting for the paint on the veil to dry, and then I'm going to go back over and put in some lines with a white Posca pen. Here I'm just adding a bit of the white paint mix that I made earlier and just adding it to the dress, and I'm being careful not to go over the pencil area. Now I'm using my 70% grey, and I'm just going to shade over all the tree area that is shaded over and throughout the moon. Now I'm coming in with the white Posca paint pen, and I'm just adding white lines through the veil just to give it that streaky effect, and the white Posca paint pen is more opaque as well, which is allowing me to get that effect I'm after. Now I'm coming in with the white Posca, and I'm just going to put some in circular motions around the bottom of a dress, not covering up the pencil work that I did earlier on, and it just adds a bit of texture to a dress to make it look more of a wedding dress and a bit more like it's made of lace or netting. Now I'm just adding little bits of blood down the sleeves of her arm with that violet lake colour. I'm just putting little lines in to do this. And that's the picture done. I hope you've enjoyed this colour along. I have managed to do the full thing in one part, so I do hope you've enjoyed it. I've tried to make it a bit more fun and horror looking, and I shall see you all soon in my next video.